Good morning, guys. This is Justin Publa, meteorologist, WisconsinWBX.com. Talking about the next week or two. This is our long-range forecast update. Just want to hit on our current conditions. It's actually below freezing in a lot of areas this morning. We have a frost out there on my lawn. There were just a couple icy spots in the interstates there this morning because there's some scattered showers, maybe some sleet there last night in these areas, and then that water stayed on the road and then froze as we came into the morning. So just maybe a couple slippery spots, but nothing too crazy. We can take a look at the winter road conditions. You see how maybe just here in the eastern side of the state, maybe a couple spots. Um, this is the 7-day forecast. I mean, it's basically we're coming out of this hole that we dug here in the week from the weekend, and then we're coming up in terms of temperature by the time we get to Friday and Saturday next week. That's the way it looks right now. I mean, if the storm takes on a different track, maybe it goes further south, then maybe this is colder. But I think that this makes a whole lot of sense right now. We're going to have a chance for rain on Tuesday, maybe a scattered to isolated. And then we're going to have to watch the Friday through Saturday, Sunday period. Maybe there's a better chance for rain in there somewhere. Certainly it's coming up because of the pattern we're going into. This is the MJO. Just went hit on this really quick again. You know how this is going. It's stuck in phase one. Now, I did see a little bit of a meander in towards the unit circle here in the last update. The one from yesterday was kind of staying stuck over here. Now this morning it's kind of like meandering over here. But also the important thing to note is here's phase two, and it looks like we were heading close to that. You're going to see elements of that in the future here when we get closer. Here's what phase one looks like in terms of temperature. Right here, you're seeing just lukewarm, a little bit above average. When we get to phase two, the pattern flips because you have the warmth here in the southeast United States. That flips in phase two. It goes into this. It goes into basically you have a trough like this. All right, so then that sweeps through. That's the pattern change that could be at the end of this 14-day period. So somewhere in between October 25th and October 30th. If that's even, I think 30th. There's 30 days in October, right? Yeah, there's 31. Okay. Here's the GFS. This is picking up 6 hours ago. I just want to show that this is you have your big low pressure area. This is your low, but your trough that's been hanging around for days, caused all the big blizzard-like conditions and snow out there. Feet of snow out here, and then now it's moving off finally. That we're going to show you moving off here, and this is 500 millibar height anomalies. But it doesn't go really well into the east. It goes kind of deflects off to the northeast into Canada. And meanwhile, this pattern, for a moment, takes in the zonal flow, but it's not really, that's kind of a misleading term to call it because, we'll talk about it. Now I'm going to box. Jesus. Why is it, my mouse is over here. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's kind of the pattern. I mean, this is really, really exaggerated line I've drawn, but either way. But you see, this is about by early this week. As a low pressure system works through, that's your chance for rain there on Tuesday. That passes over, and then it's got this bulge up here in the eastern side of the country. Or sorry, western. Why do I always flip that? Western side of the country. We move through. You're seeing that trough return to the west. That's a big, broad, upper level trough. So basically, what you get is you get return flow up from the south. Just draw. If I draw it slower, there we go. Then you have this warm air kind of moving up into the eastern side of the country, and this is where it's cold, right? And so you have this battleground in here somewhere. That's the pattern, and that's why it's going to warm up towards the end of the week, is because you have this surge from the south to the north as this trough kind of develops. But with the trough, you get a storm. Okay, here comes, and there may be 2 or 3 storms that kind of happen within this 2-week period, but there could be maybe a bigger one there at the end. Of who knows? We'll see. This is a pretty sharp trough that it's showing at this stage. Now this could change. I believe that ejects out towards Wisconsin. Why is it not working? Oh, because I'm on the wrong one. That ejects out. Actually, that's a little bit further south than I thought it was. But either way, and then another trough. But if you look at the pattern here now let's see, this isn't this Friday. Let's see, Friday the October 25th. That's 2 weeks from now almost. You have a different pattern. So that's what the GFS is showing right now. And again, it is subject to change. We've been talking about this for a long time. The pattern seems to still be predominantly this that you're seeing. with flavors of maybe a trough at times here in the east. But with the MJO still in phase one, it's kind of like, yes, we're still in this mode. But there is a chance now, I do see a chance that this pattern will flip here, maybe by the end of October, for really turning from what was warm in the east into a cold in the east situation. But we're not there yet, and that's not yet my forecast. I just see that it's possible. Let's go through the precipitation forecast. I'm just gonna hit this really quick because I don't think there's really anything major to worry about at this moment. This is your rain chance on Tuesday. It's kind of kicking out through there. That it's just not too much to that, but maybe I don't know. I mean, I'll have to take a closer look at the short range models to see if there's any chance of even a thunderstorm with that. But a little bit of a high pressure maybe, and then another low pressure developing towards next weekend. But this model doesn't do anything with it, but that's kind of interesting that that's what it did. It almost looks like it just consolidates out to the west out here, um, instead of ejecting north, which is fine. And then the low pressure by early next week, maybe late next week and early next week, starts to eject into Wisconsin. This is a more stronger, more organized low pressure system potentially there that passes through, and we'll see. I don't know. Sometimes what the activity that happens here on this, um, the end of things, where this goes is kind of up for grabs at this stage. But yeah, and then let's just take it through time, and you're going to see that by next week that pattern begins to change, and maybe it shuts off a little bit. Okay, so with that pattern change, I think I had it shown up here. This is just the temperatures. This is the MJO. Um, Basically, I don't know if I talked about it too detailed, but basically this here, this pattern is a drier pattern because with phase one, when you have the jet like this, that's pulling up moisture from the Gulf. Phase two, that's a drier pattern because the upper level winds are going to probably be more like this, and that's a continental flow. And so that's why things tend to shut off a little bit. For this region, you may have a storm track that's up through here instead of through here. So that's the way things work out. I did pull this up. I don't know why I wanted to pull it up, but yeah, I mean, and then the Wisconsin Rapids forecast. So that's what I got for you. This is the last thing. This is the absolute last thing. 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, which is kind of interesting. When we're showing here in the eastern half of the country, really wet, above average wetness here in this area, and then you get that temperature. This is pretty sharp from like a west to east. It's pretty like bimodal. That's the term. Like super cold here, super warm here, and probably a pretty amplified pattern to get that sort of longitudinal. I don't know if that's longitude or latitude, but that kind of look to it, as opposed to more of a like that. It's like this. That's kind of crazy. And then, but yeah, pretty wet. But by the time you get to the 8 to 14 day time frame, the signal weakens just a little bit, but still wet across the east. I think this is around the time you could see that change if there was going to be one. So I don't know. This may end up being not right if we do change around that time frame to this. Okay, that's all I got. Thanks for listening. I will talk to you soon.